Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nasir, and what's on tap for today? Well, it's part 2 of our Politicon debate, folks, between Michael Knowles of the Daily Wire and Chris Hahn, an attorney and a Democrat at Politicon. It is moderated by Clay Aiken in my previous part. This is part 2. It's a long debate. We shrunk it down to various parts. It's part 2 of the debate. Clay Aiken is the moderator and is just an absolute idiot, an absolute buffoon. I couldn't remember his name. Wasn't that particularly important in terms of remembering it. One back said, yeah, it's Clay Aiken from North Carolina. It's the guy that, was there for American Idol. He's there Politicon moderating, but sticking himself into the center of the debate, making the debate all about him and not about the two people that are debating. So let's get to that video clip right now. They're discussing climate change. This is part 2 between Michael Knowles and Chris Hahn.
You rebut the questions that he asked, which were specifically, why not do something about it? Because
I don't want to destroy 5.8 million jobs and get rid of 90% of American
but
energy.
here's the question. The question is not. He didn't ask why don't we do the Green New Deal, and it seems like you want to.
What would you like to
go
do?
again? I don't know. I'm asking you. I'm moderating.
Chris, what would you like us to do about global warming?
I'm asking the questions. So hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Go ahead.
I'm asking the questions.
All right.
Feel free to try to control it, but you won't get to. He asked you why not do something about it. You agreed when we came out here that the climate is warming and that there is studies and proof that scientific evidence that shows
There's some
the
studies that
climate
show
is
warming,
warming.
some do not.
Okay, so my question was, why don't Republicans and Democrats agree? You did agree on that. He talked about why don't we do something about it if we can do something about it, and you said because I don't want to do all these things. But you're only rebutting the Green New Deal, and you're the only person who brought that up. I didn't ask about that.
Well, every presidential candidate on the left at AOC did.
I'm not one of them. I'm asking you what can be done about climate change.
Right.
Forget the Green New Deal for a second. What do Republicans believe can be done and should be done?
I'll give you a great example because you're asking.
Before we get to Michael Knowles, that was like a minute and 30 seconds of Clay Aiken blithering and blabbering, trying to get to a question and inserting himself. And you can tell already what side he's on. As a moderator, you shouldn't know. He should just be moderating the debate and doing it equally, right? Don't these leftists and Democrats talk about equality and equity? I don't see that much happening in moderation. Anyway, from the moderator. Anyways, let's see what Michael has to say.
Me, why don't we do something? That's extraordinarily vague. I support doing something and not doing nothing. There, we all agree. The question is, what should we do? The question
I'm asking you, what should we do? Unless you want to cede the ground to Democrats to be the ones who come up with ideas.
I'll give you an example.
Which it seems like you're doing. Then give me one.
We were told that if President Trump pulled us out of the Paris Climate Accord, the sky would fall and the earth would be doomed. President Trump pulled us out of the Paris Climate Accord. Everything was fine. We were then told by those same people who sold it, well, it was actually better than fine. We were then told by the same people who sold it that the Paris Climate Accord would only get us 1/3 of the way towards stopping catastrophic man-made global warming, meaning the Paris Climate Accord wouldn't have done anything in the first place. But there is actually good news because we pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord, and guess what turned out in a 2018 study? That the United States leads the world in reducing carbon emissions. And you know what else is funny? You know what else is funny from that study? All those signatories to the Paris Climate Accord, Spain, Canada, the European Union, certainly China, not only did they not abide by the regulations of the Paris Climate Accord, they actually increased their climate emissions. So the U.S., we don't join the Kyoto Protocol. We pull out of the Paris Climate Accord. We don't pass a carbon tax. We don't pass gas taxes. We don't pass cap and trade. We are still leading the world. Not only are we doing something about protecting the environment, we're doing more than anybody else.
But when Michael puts his stuff out there, Chris Hahn, I'd like to see his response. It's going to come up soon, folks. We're going to get to that. But Michael just puts it out there, and that is true. We pulled out of those accords. We're the leading country, okay, in terms of reducing our climate emissions, reducing, increasing our standards so that we continue to reduce emissions as much as possible. We're the ones that are leading the world, yet everybody still wants even more, even more, even more. And the reason for it, folks, is because they can get money out of it. Money can be transferred from the United States of America, from us, the citizens that put in the government, and be transferred to the United Nations, be transferred to other companies, be transferred to colleges and universities working on these woke social justice warrior climate change ideas. And this money, how do you think Al Gore is making multi-millions of dollars, and other politicians are doing exactly the same thing? Because climate change has value in terms of monetary wealth building, basically. All right, you get involved with climate change, man, you can get a whole bunch of money to do a study, whether it proves it or not, but you get the money to do it.
Just for those of you who see me on Fox and wondering why I'm not interrupting him, we do have an hour, and we're going to be here. But look, here's the thing. The United States is leading the way because states are leading the way, and also corporations are leading the way, reducing their carbon footprint, because it makes sense to do that. The market is driving us towards reducing our carbon footprint. The only person on this planet that's driving us away from it is Donald Trump. Donald Trump wants to increase our climate footprint. He wants to increase our carbon footprint here in the United States of America. He is passing laws to make it easier to pollute in America, and he's redacting laws that have been put in place that were meant to save our environment. Like I said, and let me just go one other.
First of all, why don't you say, instead of the hyperbole, point out to some of those regulations where you think that's happening, that Donald Trump is, making the environment, doing harm to the environment. Let us know what they are, not just talk about it and say it. Just because you say it and spray it doesn't mean there's any truth to it.
Other thing, the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal is a bogeyman. It is what the right wants you to be afraid of most. Do not be afraid of the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal is not anywhere close to being passed. Now, there might be parts of it that might be passed, but I kind of long for a day in America where somebody says, we've got a problem. Here's my solution to that problem. What's your solution to that problem? Might be different than my solution to the problem. Might be further to the right, mine might be further left. We'll get together and we'll talk about it. Instead, what we have in America today is, here's my idea. You're a communist. You're a fascist. You're a racist. No, I want our ideas to have real debates, real conversations from the left and the right and the center and all other sides in between, where we can kind of work out solutions to real problems. Climate change is a real problem. We are continuing to reduce our carbon footprint because corporations and states want to do it. And as for what other countries are doing, climate change and acting on climate change is a public good. It is a public good that benefits the United States of America most, because we are the richest nation on earth and we have the most to lose. If we were building a street and we owned a factory, other people might use that street, but we would use that street too, and we would benefit most for it. Even if we paid for it, other people in the public would pay for it, would get some benefit out of it too, but we would benefit more for it. The United States of America is the richest, most powerful nation on earth, and we should be leading in everything that's important to this planet.
Do you feel like somebody's got the fans here?
I got like five people.
Some people.
When you're a liberal on Fox, I know you all know me, and I love you. Trust me, I do.
He got like 3 or 4 people. What is the sound of one hand clapping?
And I appreciate you watching Fox News. I appreciate you watching me, Fox News, but I know you're not going to agree with me, but that's okay. Just download my podcast, The Aggressive Progressive Chris Hahn. You know where it's at.
Do you think that this rhetoric makes it hard to get to the truth? I mean, this is the climate change. Some people will say, part of the big argument is that people are saying constantly, this is a scientific thing. This is not an opinion-based situation. But there's still rhetoric that makes it difficult for us to get to the truth. Is rhetoric a problem with why we can't get to the truth to this issue or any other issues?
Yeah, I mean, rhetoric is the absolute problem here. Look, he cited a bunch of articles from right-wing publications that are coming out and saying that scientists aren't basically in unison on this issue. No, there is a problem. The world is changing. We have more carbon dioxide in our atmosphere now than we did at any other point in the last 3.5 million years. And there was a mass extinction the last time we had this kind of problems. Now, hey, maybe we're better suited for it now. Maybe everybody who died in that last extinction is already dead and we don't have to worry about them anymore. We survived it, right? But it's still a problem. and trying to find the solutions to that problem are going to create jobs. Now, you want to put out a bogeyman, the Green New Deal, because there's some first-term congresswoman that's gotten a lot of ink and is on fire. What is she supposed to be? Is she supposed to be jaded already? She just got to Congress. Let her have a big idea or two. That's fine.
It's fine to have a big idea, but not when it's stupid, not when it's going to threaten the economy, not when it's going to threaten the livelihood of American citizens, not when it's going to threaten the livelihood of businesses and kill 5, 6, 7 million jobs. You can have an idea. Everybody can have an idea, but some ideas are smart, some ideas are stupid, some ideas are just plain retarded. Everybody has an idea. We need the smart ones, the smart ideas to move forward that are not going to harm this country, but are going to move this country forward in a way that it needs to be moved into the 21st, 22nd, and further centuries beyond.
Congress works slowly. The founders gave us an incremental system of government. We should have ideas on both the left and the right. We should find solutions to things that are really happening. We should find a way to make the lives of everyday Americans better. And we could do that through finding new technologies and supporting new research. Right now, this government is all about fossil fuel. And I'm not saying we should eliminate fossil fuel tomorrow. I'm not saying that at all. But I do think we should be looking for the next thing, because this technology we're using right now is the same technology we were using 150, 200 years ago, and it's time to move on.
It's cheap technology. It's cheap for us right now. Not everybody can afford electric. And then where are you going to get what fuel sources are you going to use to power up for all electric? Where? Many places, okay, nuclear would be great, but every time you try to start up a nuclear reactor, environmentalists come out, the lawyers come out, the Sierra Club comes out. Everybody comes out to basically protest and say, not in my backyard, not in our neighborhood. So if you're not building nuclear, what are you going to do? And when Chris Hahn was talking about there's no waste with wind, what are you talking about? Have you ever seen the dumpsters, the landfills, where they're putting in old wind machines, old windmills right now? And those are the ones that were built decades ago. I mean, there's a lifespan to those. They just don't deteriorate. They don't just obliterate when you cover them up with dirt. They just don't do that. They stay, folks. They're there for thousands and thousands of years. They're never going to go away in those landfills. What about the pollution and what the damage to the environment that those things are causing?
The reason I mention the Green New Deal is not just to mention AOC, who is very entertaining, so I talk about her a lot. But it isn't just her. It's not just a boogeyman.
I know, I listen to your podcast. You do talk about her a lot.
The Green New Deal is endorsed also by Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren. This is all in the Senate. This is among presidential candidates. This is a major policy initiative of the Democratic Party, not the fringe voices, not the new voices, but the established mainstream people. So you've got that on one hand. The other aspect of it is it won't be a public good to destroy jobs. It won't be a public good to harm industries. There is also great cause for skepticism. Why? Because there have been a lot of predictions about global warming that have not come true. Since 2013, the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, has admitted that it's gotten many things wrong. It's admitted that we couldn't account for the lack of warming between 1997 and 2012. It's admitted that it was wrong about its predictions in declining Antarctic ice. It admitted that it was wrong about melting Himalayan glaciers. It admitted that it was wrong about not being able to account for the medieval warming period from 950 to 1250, well before the Industrial Revolution. The other reason I urge caution here is because we have heard from the same climatologists warnings in exactly the other direction. This is my absolute favorite one. My favorite one comes from 1970, the Washington Post. They say scientists see ice age in the future. Get a good grip on your long johns, cold weather haters. That's the long-range weather forecast being given out by climatologists. In 1972, a group of climatologists at Brown said that the natural end of our warm epoch is undoubtedly near. So I'm not saying that certainly there's no warming. I'm not saying we can't do anything about protecting our environment. What I'm saying is there is great cause for skepticism here. We've heard consensus. We've heard undoubtedly a lot before before. And so we should approach this with humility. We shouldn't assail people who disagree with these predictions as haters and as deniers.
You realize your quote.
Now, before we get to Chris and his response, Michael, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, when Michael comes out, he gives points. He takes articles that are out there, and he basically is saying, look, here's what the consensus was back then, and they were completely wrong. IPCC, they were wrong. The United Nations, they were wrong. These scientists saying they were wrong back then. So what makes it that they're all of a sudden they're correct now? This consensus is completely fraudulent. Of 97 to 99% of all scientists say yes, global warming and there's climate change is not there. Let's see what Chris Hahn's response is.
Quoting things from 1972.
Right. I'm quoting climatologists from then.
You realize that nobody cares anymore about 19. I was 1 in 1970. Your mom was probably 10 in 1972. Why are we talking about 1970?
Because it shows that scientific consensus has changed over time.
Do scientists, are they always right? No, but there's not much that scientists agree as much as they do on this issue.
Well, in 1970, they agreed that we were approaching a cold era.
Even if they're wrong, we know that fossil fuels pollute. We know this. This is something we all agree on.
So what? Who cares if it pollutes? It's there. It's always going to be there. Nobody gives a damn if it pollutes. I don't give a damn if it pollutes. So what? It's cheap. It's a great source of energy. And it's plentiful. And it's a natural resource. And there's jobs with it. And a whole host of industries that go along with fossil fuels and oil and gas. And then what's a third world countries going to do, Chris?
We know that solar doesn't pollute. We know that wind doesn't pollute. It doesn't cause cancer like President Trump said.
They also don't produce very much energy is the trouble.
Well, that's why we got to invest in technologies and try to understand a way to make those things more efficient and effective. And if we do that, we're going to create a whole new industry. We're going to be less dependent on the Middle East. We won't have to have our troops guarding oil fields in Turkey and northern Syria, in southern Syria right now. We don't need that right now.
Well, we're pulling the troops out, so I guess that's the president.
They're protecting the oil. The president left them there to protect.
Round 2, again, Michael Knowles. Round 2. Round 1 went to Michael Knowles. Round 2 went to Michael Knowles. I mean, these weren't just TKOs, okay? These were complete knockouts. All you heard was a bunch of rhetoric, a bunch of babbling from Chris Hahn about the whys, the ifs, basically saying, if you're right, if the climate change are wrong, if everything the right says, conservatives, Republicans, the GOP, if everything they say is right, if everything the climatologists say are wrong, it's still a problem. It doesn't matter. There's still a problem. It's the most existentialist idea that's out there. It is something that needs to be addressed, whether it's there or not, whether it's true or not. It just needs to be done. That's basically coming from Chris. That's it. No data, no scientific studies, no nothing. He isn't presenting a single thing. He's basically just talking out of his derriere. The verbal diarrhea is unbelievable. And Michael Knowles is basically, taking a huge shovel and has to completely, keep shoveling out of the verbal diarrhea that Chris Hahn is basically, bloviating out there. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasir. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell, like, share, and follow us. Comment below. Let us know what you think. Who do you think won round 2? And I'll leave with my final thought, which is, when you're right, you're right, and when you're left, you're wrong. We'll see you again next time, folks. Take care and stay safe.